Okay, cool.
Alright.
Let's go a little bit technical today,
Okay.
and let's talk about these two things that we have started seeing coming back on contracts. One is the condition, which is basically the sale of a buyer's property, and secondly, the escape clause that is normally get added by the seller side.
Okay.
So why don't we look at these two and see what they mean? Let's dissect one at a time.
Okay, let me talk about the sale of buyer's property condition. So today I am a buyer in the market. I own a home, and this is a shifting market. We all know that. So I would, to protect myself, and I want to make sure that if I'm able to buy your house, Mr. Seller, I really like your house, but I want to make sure that I'm able to sell my house as well.
Yeah.
So how do I cover myself? How do I, me as an agent, I
Protect yourself.
protect my clients as well?
Yeah.
So I recommend that we put a clause which is a sale of the buyer's property, which basically means that I will buy your house at whatever terms and condition, price, closing date we've agreed on. But there's another condition to it, which is that I have the ability to sell my home as the buyer. I want to make sure that I have to sell my home to buy yours. I have the ability to sell that in a certain amount of time that we agree on,
Yeah.
which is usually 30, 60, depending on the market, 90 days sometimes. I'm able to do that so that, we're both happy.
There you go. But that then leads to the question, hey, why would a seller take that?
Of course.
Right? They say, why would I, basically take my property out of the market for the next 30, 60, 90 days, whatever that is. Yeah, I'd like to sell, but at the same time, what are my options that I can actually look at? So let's now flip the coin here and then say, hey, you know what? From a seller's perspective, how can a seller protect themselves? So let's say that we are representing the seller in this kind of a situation. We have an offer that comes in that has the sale of a buyer's property condition on it. How do I protect myself? So usually in those kind of situations, we see the sellers countering it with an escape clause. So what does that mean? So the escape clause basically is saying that, yeah, this property is being sold to you conditionally, with the sale of your condition as being with the sale of your home, the buyer. But this condition basically is saying that I'm going to continue to show my property to prospective buyers that might still come in and take a look at the house, and they might be interested in buying my house. And the seller still has the ability to basically receive an offer, a new offer that could come from a different buyer. So what does that mean? So the house is sold conditionally, but it is still available for showings. It is still available to actually take a look at another offer, right? So let's say an offer comes in during that 30, 60,
days,
90
let's say we
day
sold it for
conditions
30 days,
period, right? So what happens in that kind of a scenario is that the original buyer who actually put an offer in, they have the first right of refusal.
Okay.
So the seller basically says, hey, another offer has come in. Now you have 24 to 48 to 72 hours
Whatever the agreed
to
time
make a
is.
decision, because now I'm taking a look at this new offer that has come on the table. Now you have to tell me in the next, again, 24, 48, 72 hours, whatever that right of refusal period is that you have agreed on, to basically either make your offer firm, basically remove your condition, or basically have the condition fulfilled from your end, Mr. Buyer. Or if that's not the case, the original agreement of purchase and sale becomes null and void, and the seller has now the option to accept the new offer.
Oh, that's pretty
Right?
cool. Like, so you're doing your job to protect your seller.
Correct.
And me as a buyer's agent, I did my job to protect my buyer.
Correct.
But there's a few things that as a listing agent and a buyer's rep, you have to watch out for. That when you're working with these conditions, like for example, something like let's say I'm the listing agent, and you have brought me an offer, and you're saying that your client will sell their 1, 2, 3 X city house, right? They will sell it, and in 30 days. But what do I owe to my seller? I owe the due diligence on my end to make sure that whatever house you're selling, number one, you're going to be, have they prepared it? I need to have this conversation with the other agent to make sure that, have you prepared the house? Is it ready to go on the market? What price are you planning on listing it at? And then, I think another very important thing is to do that research. That you're not trying to sell a $1 million home for $1.8 million, right?
Correct.
I want to know. I want to know all
Absolutely.
those details.
And you can be very specific in terms of how some of these conditions and clauses can be written.
Of course.
And absolutely, I think from a seller standpoint, you want to make sure that the house that the buyer is trying to sell comes on the market in the next X number of days. That they're not just sitting on this for the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks.
Your seller is not being held hostage. Basically.
You want to make sure the seller is not being held hostage, but at the same time, you want to make sure that the buyer actually has the intention of selling their house. And
you can't dictate it, but you can only talk.
That's where the due diligence comes
Yeah.
in. That's where you got to make sure that when if you're a buyer or a seller, when you're talking to your representative, your advisor, you ask those kind of questions. You want to make sure that ultimately it's a win-win for everybody.
Yeah,
right?
and another thing, I remember once I was in this situation, and the buyer's rep I was representing the buyer and the listing agent. He actually did his homework, and he came to me and he said, the average number of days in that particular neighborhood were this many days, so I'm only going to give you 5 more days than that. So
Correct.
if the average days were 20, he was going to give me 25 days.
Yeah.
So you know what? And I respect that. He did his homework.
Absolutely.
And those are the
Absolutely.
type of things you do to protect your sellers.
There you go. There you go. I think we got a little too technical here, but
I think so. I hope we didn't
thought,
bore
it's
you.
one of those days, right?
Exactly. It's gray enough outside, so might as well talk about boring stuff as well.
All right. I think that's it.
Okay, guys. Talk.